so fresh. When I walk by, breaking they necks. Waiting in line at the team store. Now I'm feeling fly like a condor. Eyes on me when I walk through the door. Man, I wish I bought a couple more. Cause I really love my city. It was worth every penny. If it were at my show, then I know they gon' tip me. Think I might add a couple patches. If you think it's ugly, you capping. Now my whole outfit matching. Never going out of fashion.
What's up, everybody? Welcome, episode 642, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here, October 2nd, 2024. The Padres are moving on. That is another step. You can check that off the list. They have won the wild card series against the Braves. They sweep them in 2, which is what we all wanted. This is, I don't want to say best case scenario because Joe is hurt, and that obviously sucks, but best case scenario in terms of how you can set this up, at least at the beginning of this series against the Dodgers. You win the first 2, and now instead of having to have Martin Perez throw, because he may not start in any of those Dodger games now because there's the days off, you can now go Dylan Cease game 1, match him up against Jack Flaherty, and then you've got Yamamoto for the Dodgers, I think, in game 2, and then you have Darvish against that. So most teams would have had Darvish pitching in their rotation in the wild card series. And then they'd be throwing a guy that they wouldn't want to be throwing in a postseason game in the division series. But the Padres, because of the depth that they have, they get to have this luxury of having Cease, Darvish, and then they could, if they wanted to, go right back to the top, I think, because it sets up. Michael King pitched yesterday, so he'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He'd be on, I think, 6 days rest because game 3 back here at home is going to be next Tuesday, the 8th, because it's Saturday, Sunday, day off, I think. And then the 8th, the 9th, I assume another day off, and then the 11th. So this Padres situation, the pitching situation, it's in a great spot in terms of the start of this series. Obviously, the Joe Musgrove thing, it's great the Padres won, but that is obviously a huge storyline. That's a big thing, obviously, that we got to talk about. He exits this game early. I thought that he was pitching pretty well. I know that first inning, he gave up that double to Michael Harris, who has turned into like the best hitter of all time against the Padres in these last couple of games. So that was a great job from him. But, man, that sucks seeing him. It seemed like he was getting a hit every single time at the plate. He was hitting like 625 after that first hit that he had there against Joe tonight. He scores there on the sac fly. That was a good throw by Profar. But then Musgrove doesn't allow anything. And then he ends up coming off the field. He ended up only going 3 2/3. So in the 4th inning there, he ends up coming off. He gave up 1 hit. He didn't walk anyone, struck out 4. He was pitching well. And then the velocity came down on a couple of breaking balls, I believe, is what those pitches were. And Higgy could tell something was wrong. Ruben, I was listening to Mike Schultz's interview. I think it was with Tony Gwynn Jr. And Ruben could tell that there was something not right. That doesn't look good. And so they go out there. Joe ends up coming out of the game. Now, I was at the game, obviously, and so I could not tell what was happening. I saw Musgrove holding his left hip as he was walking off the field, I think with Ben Frazier, one of the trainers. And so I initially thought, okay, maybe it would be hip. Then I asked those that were watching the game on TV, like, did you guys see anything? And a lot of it at the beginning was, just guessing because we didn't really know. And then I guess replays were shown and he was kind of moving around his elbow, his arm a couple of times. And Higgy saw that and was like, all right, timeout, something's not right here. And so it comes out later in the game from the Padres that it is elbow tightness, and we'll see what happens. I believe there's some Joe Musgrove quotes that have come out, and I'll try to look for those here as I'm talking. But yeah, this could be a significant blow to the Padres because when you think about teams that have the best shot at winning the World Series or getting to the World Series, go look at the Phillies from a couple of years ago, right? How many arms did they have that they could go to? They had Aaron Nola. They had Zach Wheeler. They had Ranger Suarez. They had guys that they could go to. And the Padres, I'm not saying they don't. They still have Michael King. They still have Yu Darvish. They still have Dylan Cease. Martin Perez isn't the worst option. It's not the end of the world, but these longer series where you're going to have to use 4 starters sometimes, right? That could end up being an issue. And Joe, what hurts so much about this is Joe was pitching so well going into this. He had 1 bad inning since he came off the IL. And then today, again, that line that I just read, he was pitching really well today. Results-based business, right? He was pitching well. And then that happens. So that's a blow. Now, the good thing, though, is that the Padres do have the bullpen depth. So if they do have to throw Martin Perez in a game, he doesn't have to go super long. And they could fill if they needed to based on someone pitching the day before, hopefully, and going, 7 innings, maybe 6 innings. They could go with a game where it's Brian Hoeing and it's Yuki Matsui. AJ Preller seems like he has a lot of confidence in Yuki. So you could see something like that. There's Wandy Peralta that's out there in the pen. And I know that's not the most ideal thing, and that probably scares some Padres fans. But there are worse bullpen situations out there. I will say that. But yeah, Petco was rocking. That 5-run inning that they had there, Higgy with that homer. Higgy, man, one of the MVPs of this series. He homers yesterday. He homers today, and that ends up being one of the differences in this game because they win by 1 run, and that was the solo homer, the first run the Padres scored there in that second inning. And then Manny comes through, scoring a couple of runs, and he was fired up. He wasn't even at first base yet, and he was screaming, "Let's go!" at the dugout. Love seeing a Manny fired up like that. And he brings in a couple runs. Merrill with that triple, and then he's screaming, "Let's effing go!" at third base, bringing in, I think, a couple of runs for him as well. So that was obviously 5 runs there in that second inning. It was literally shaking. I was in 309, and it was you could feel it shaking. It was just like the 2022 postseason when the Padres were facing the Dodgers. I think it was definitely after that Crony hit, but maybe even after the Grish homer in Game 3, it was literally shaking. The upper deck was shaking. And I saw Marty Caswell, I think, tweeted that the press box was shaking as well. It was insanely loud at Petco Park. It was hard to hear the person a couple seats away from you with what they were trying to say. That's what postseason baseball is about, man. It is fun. And Michael King said this the other day. It is not an environment that you want to play in if you're the road team. There are some people, Bryce Harper, I think, is one of those guys that thrives off, the road, being on the road and being booed, but that's not a comfortable spot to be in. Now, we can talk about that at Dodger Stadium coming up, right, where the Padres, they're going into Dodger Stadium, and, I like my life, so no, I'm not going up to Dodger Stadium. I'm good. I think the Padres, they're going to relish that. I don't think this is going to be a situation where they're like, "Oh, no, it's loud. They're booing me." No, I think they know that they can beat the Dodgers. They're going to be there to shut the heck up those Dodger fans. I think they're going to embrace it. I think it's I was texting with my uncle today after the Padres won, and I'll pull it up what he said. He may be watching this, actually. I said, they ain't scared of LA either, talking about the Padres. And then he said, I think it might be the other way around. They don't want to play us. And yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like it's that way, where the Padres, they won the season series. The Dodgers, they've had that time off. Now, if I was a Dodger fan, I would not be using that as an excuse. I'm saying you earned the time off, go win the series. But from the Padres' perspective, Dodgers had the time off. We know what that did to them in 2022. That did not serve them well. The Padres, they are playing good baseball right now. They have the vibes, if you will. They have good starting pitching, even in the first 2 games of that series, when that was not the case. Let's remember in 2022, that was not the case. Where, remember, they had, I think it was Clev pitching Game 1. It was not great. Obviously, 2020, I mean, that was, a bunch of guys got hurt. It was Ryan Weathers making his big league debut, having to come in, like that was a joke. But this is totally different. I know Joe, he may not even start in that NLDS. He did have a quote about how he's going to do whatever it takes to be able to be ready at some point. Here's the quote from AJ Caswell here. It says, Joe Musgrove will get imaging on his right elbow tomorrow. He says, I'll do whatever I've got to do to get back in there at some point. Now, what is that some point? From on the trolley ride home, I was kind of thinking, like, because I saw that quote, what is at some point? Is that, it might be better for Joe to come out for 1 inning in the bullpen? Is he going to be able to give you 5 innings as a starter? Are they going to have to move Darvish up that one and, give Martin Perez a start? Because, I'm sorry, he's dealing with the bone spurs, right? He comes back, he's pitching really well, and then the elbow tightness comes up again. I don't feel like that's something that is just going to go away. So right now, my mindset is pretty much like I'm not expecting Joe to be starting in this Dodger series, which is a freaking bummer because against the Dodgers, man, I want that guy on the mound. That guy is a freaking competitor. Against any team in the postseason, I want him on the mound. And again, he was pitching well tonight, gave up 1 hit before he had to leave that game. He got 11 outs and then had to leave the game in a 2-1 count there in that top of the 4th inning. Just a bummer. That was the one bummer from tonight. Jason Adam giving up the homer, sure, but that was and we can talk about, Bogey and Crony not having hits in it's 2 games though. And I know it's the postseason and it's magnified, but I think we do have to remember it is just 2 games, and 2 games of 162, we wouldn't be talking about it. But because it's the postseason and they're the only 2 guys of the starting 9 that don't have a bat, or they have a batting average, but it's 0. They don't have a hit. That's where it's going to get talked about, right? I know I'm jumping all over the place, but that was the real big bummer from tonight. Because Adam, I think he can bounce back going into this series, going into tonight. I was the most confident in Adam of those big 3 relievers. And Scott and Suarez were able to do their job. Big out that that Tanner Scott got against Matt Olson coming in there, and how many he covered 4 outs tonight? Yeah, 4 outs. Then Adam comes in, pitches an inning, gives up that homer to Michael Harris, who just, turns into Charlie Blackmon and Yan Gomes against the Padres. If you know, those guys mash against the Padres in their career. Yan Gomes does nothing against everyone else, and then he hits homers against the Padres. That was Michael Harris in these couple of games. But the good news was that was the only guy that was doing a lot. I guess I see Jorge Soler's OPS is over 1,000, but really the only guy that stood out to me in that lineup was Michael Harris. I think the Braves totally did us a favor by having Ozzie Albies still hitting second in that order. He is playing hurt. He has nothing on that swing. These past couple games, he had nothing on that swing. There was no power. He was just trying to put that thing in play. The one-handed swing, he was not looking good. But the Braves still put him second in that order. So thank you to that, Brian Snitker. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Padres fans appreciate that. But yeah, tonight, Arise 2 hits, Tatis 3 hits, Profar had a hit, Manny had a hit, Merrill had a couple of hits, Higgy obviously with that homer. These 2 games, Higgy's OPS was over 2,000. He was definitely one of the MVPs of this series. Tatis was one of the MVPs of this series. I know it's 2 games, so you pretty much have to mention everyone that drove in a run. So Merrill, Manny, it was big. And then I would shout out Robert Suarez because, results-based business. He did do his job, right? He didn't give up any runs in this series. Unless I'm totally having 4-0 yesterday. No runs in this series, so good job from him. And I think we know our answer of, maybe it changes with the Dodgers, but I feel like we know our answer of how Mike Schultz is going to approach this. It's, okay, Robert Suarez, we want you to be confident in yourself, so we're going to leave you in that 9th inning when we have a lead. And, well, maybe it does change because there's going to be more lefties in that Dodgers lineup. Because the Braves, it was righty heavy. And so just leaving Suarez in that 9th inning role was good for the Padres. They could just have him go face righties for the most part. Where this Dodgers series, it might be a little bit different. But what we saw tonight, we saw Tanner Scott come into the game way earlier than the 8th inning. He was coming in what, the 6th inning, right? Because Musgrove left and Hoeing covered the 4th and the 5th. Estrada came in. Tanner Scott came in the 6th inning, I think, to end that 6th, and then pitch the 7th. Adam pitched the 8th. Suarez pitched the 9th. Yeah. So we could see that. Estrada came in, obviously, before Tanner Scott. Hoeing came in after Musgrove. And I was kind of expecting them to go to Darvish, but then you look at the scoreboard in that situation, and they're up by 4 runs. And it's like, well, remember, Schilt does not want to be using Yu Darvish because he wants to pitch him in Game 2 against the Dodgers with Cisco in Game 1. You don't want to touch Darvish. He's only on the roster in case you absolutely needed to use him if something happened. So once I took a deep breath and realized the situation, I was like, okay, yeah, it doesn't make sense for Darvish to be going into this game. And I was fine with Hoeing going into the game. Anyone that watched Bryant Hoeing this year in a Padres uniform, I think you're going to be pretty confident in Bryant when he's coming into a game. So I was there. I was obviously confident in Jason Adam. I was pretty shocked when he gave up that homer. Like, really? Because his ERA was so small. He had been doing so good with the Padres. And I'm not saying this one home run is going to change everything and it's going to go to crap. But, yeah, that was surprising. But, hey, they get the win. Love seeing the pumped up Manny. How about that play, by the way, that he made diving on his knees, bounces the throw over to Crony, and they almost turned the double play. That was a heck of a play. And I think it was that 6th inning. The play last night, I'm still marveling at because he was standing on the outfield grass when he made that throw. And I thought he was just going to bounce it, but he tried to make the throw the entire way. And it was a good pick, obviously, by Solano, who it seems pretty clear that he's going to be playing every day at first base. I think the Padres, they like his defense there. Don't know how many at-bats David Peralta is going to get because the lineup is the lineup, pretty much. Arise, they want him in there, obviously, at the top of the order. I would feel like against really David Peralta's a lefty as well. And the outfield's the outfield. No one's going anywhere there. So those are just some thoughts that I had on this game. Again, the latest on Musgrove that I see is he's going to do whatever he's got to do to get back in there at some point. Annie Harbrun tweeted, Musgrove said the issue is different than the bone spur. We'll get an MRI tomorrow. Had a tough week leading into tonight, but fought through as best as he could. So is he indirectly saying, like, yeah, I already felt elbow pain going into tonight? Because if that's the case, I know it's the playoffs, and if I'm in that situation, I'm a competitor. I don't want to just give the ball up. But man, that's pretty tough if he was dealing with an elbow problem going into the outing. The good news is that the Padres had the bullpen depth, and so maybe that gave him the confidence to be like, no, I got the ball, I'm going. I don't want to sit here and speculate a bunch about it because I'm obviously not in there knowing what he was actually dealing with going into this outing. If it was a little bit something and he knew he could push through it or felt like he could push through it. I mean, he did it for almost 4 innings and he was pitching well. He gave up 1 hit. I still want Joe, the competitor, out there with the bullpen. The bullpen can cover 6 innings. I mean, we saw it almost 6 innings tonight. So I still want Joe out there at least to start there. He still helped the Padres win the game, kept the Braves in check. I know they didn't have Riley and they didn't have Acuna, and I'm sure the Braves are, if you're a Braves fan right now, you probably are like, well, we have our World Series in 2021. They might just be happy that they got into the postseason considering all the injuries that they had. No Strider, no Sale, Riley, Albies is playing hurt, no Acuna. I mean, if the Padres had to deal with that, I don't know where they would be right now. I know they have a lot of depth, but they probably wouldn't have won 93 games, And I don't know how successful they would have been in a wild card series because that's a lot of talent. If they were without Tatis, Manny, Michael King, and Dylan Cease or Joe Musgrove, that's a lot. That's a lot of absences right there. So let's see. Is there anything else before going to? I think it's Vince that's waiting, so I will get to him here in a second, and then I'm going to go to the chat as well. I just don't want to miss anything here. Again, the crowd was just fantastic, electric. Obviously, like I said, upper deck was shaking. I don't know if anyone was on the lower deck or the second deck. How are you guys experienced that at Petco tonight? If you were there, but yeah, that reminded me of 2022 against the Dodgers. And next Tuesday and Wednesday at Petco Park, that may be at another level with Shohei Ohtani, obviously his playoff debut. Dylan Cease, hopefully it's a rude awakening to Shohei Ohtani and what the playoffs are. Hopefully he shoves it right up the Dodgers, you know what, on what is that, Saturday night. And what we should expect is it's going to be tight baseball games. It's going to be tense. I'm not expecting a bunch of blowouts in this series. I'm expecting it to go back and forth, but I could see it play out the same that it did in 2022, where the Padres, they take a game in LA. Maybe it's not game one, maybe it's game two. They take one of those games. They can beat Yama Meatballs, take one of those games, and then win both games at Petco. We'll see what the Padres pitching situation is going to be, obviously, but I expect Michael King to start game 3, win that game, and then we'll see what happens for game 4. But yeah, it's going to be one heck of a week. It would be like a week stretch because game 5 would be, I think, the following Friday. So now the good news is we have some days off here. We can get ready for this Dodgers series, and let's go. That's going to be exciting. The Padres might be having watch parties at Petco. I did see them tweet something about that today. So maybe look forward to that. But yeah, without further ado, let's go to Vince here, who has been waiting patiently. I appreciate it. What's up, man? How's it going? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. So I have a few questions. So one, my dad was at the game and he was in our family seats. My grandfather was actually an original season ticket member and sat in the first seat they installed in Petco. And from what he told me on the phone and from my cousin's post on Instagram, that the lower level, field level, it was going off. In 2022, I was there. It was, everyone was going off, like people, trying to get on TV. But then I have a few questions. How do you think the Padres will do against, the Dodgers and obviously Shohei Ohtani? But here's the real controversial question. We all know this is kind of something not really related to actually baseball, but we all know that Don Orsillo not only works the Padres, but TBS and Fox. And because the Padres might make the World Series, and we all know he works Fox, do you think that he should be allowed to call one of the games? Because he technically works for TBS and Fox. Like if you've seen earlier this year, I believe he was working the Astros, and then there's a few other teams on TBS, and he wasn't there. So, Tony Gwynn Jr., Jesse Agler, they were called up to work, TV because Don Orsillo wasn't there. So my question is, do you think he should allowed to work the games or at least, be, like in the booth as like a third person? And then my final question is who do you think the Padres would have to be on the other side of the bracket in order to win? Like, who do you think is the most likely opponent they would beat?
Yeah, so I'll answer that second question first. I think with the AL, with the Astros, I was thinking the Astros were going to go all the way there with that AL. The Yankees, I feel like their path is definitely opened now, but the Royals do look good with the pitching that they have and Bobby Witt Jr., obviously, and that offense. So it could be one of those where if the Padres do get there, they're going to be the favorite against an AL team. Padres Yankees, I think, would do really well with rate. I don't care about ratings, but I know there's people that are going to make a bunch of tweets about that. They obviously MLB would probably want Dodger Yankees but I think that would do really good. Juan Soto facing his former team, Michael King facing the Yankees. That would be pretty good. So if I had to pick a team, I just feel like the Yankees don't have enough pitching. So right now, I would actually probably pick um, the Kansas City Royals right now. They're looking pretty good. And then your initial question about Don. So what I think his situation is, he does regular season games for Fox, but I think he's exclusively with TBS for postseason games. I don't think he's ever done the Fox postseason games. When I hear him on postseason games, he's with TBS with I think Jeff Francoeur and maybe Ron Darling. But I know that he's done TBS postseason games. The Fox crew, it's going to be Joe Davis and John Smoltz. That's going to be the Padre Dodger crew. I can pretty much guarantee that because that's the most watched series out of all the NLDS and ALDS series. Regardless of what happens in Mets Brewers tomorrow, Padres Dodgers, that is the series. So, how I would do it, to be honest, is I would either have Joe Davis not be doing the game and you have someone else come in and do the game because you have no Dodger broadcaster, you have no Padre play-by-play guy, and then you have John Smoltz as the analyst who is no Padre or Dodger, or you have a non-biased play-by-play guy, and then you have, let's say, Mud do it, and then you have Oral Hershiser, although I hate him, but you have him do it as well. I think Peacock did this where it's one team analyst and then the other team analyst, 3-man booth. You bring in another announcer. So you get both fan perspectives. And it's just better. I mean, those guys have been following their teams all year long. So it would be better, but we're all talking about things that aren't going to happen. It's going to be Joe Davis. It's going to be John Smoltz. And it's going to be Ken Rosenthal probably as the sideline guy. And we're just going to have to deal with that. I don't think Joe Davis is terrible. I just don't like hearing Joe Davis's voice when it's a postseason game with the Padres involved in it. That's all. Although Padres Dodgers, the last time it was not Joe Davis, it was Adam Amin, I think, and AJ Pierzynski. But come on, Padres Dodgers. That's the series. Fox needs to have their A crew on that, just like ESPN had their A crew on Padres Braves because they knew that was the best one or the most like sexy matchup.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen with Fox. And we're just going to have to deal with it. There's Jesse and Tony that we can listen to on the radio.
Yep.
And hopefully 97.3 The Fan will post those great calls of Jesse because those are the ones that we want to listen to. You want to listen to our guys.
Yeah, that's what the Padres were doing on YouTube with their highlights. And my final question is the last time the Padres in the World Series was 1998, and that was sort of before the digital age. And I'm wondering what your take on this is. Do you think like the Padres should be like, hey fans, you think they should sell, like you could go on a form and put like, hey, can I buy a commemorative ticket? Here's my things. I'll physically, I'll pay extra for it and then allow them like, do you think that they should sell something like that for the World Series? Like, because now tickets are now digital, and I know members have the option during the season and sometimes postseason to get their tickets printed. But do you think that, they should allow like an sort of like the theme games, like for the regular season, like, hey, can I purchase my ticket? Here's where I'm sitting, like it's not actually valid for the game. It just has
Right.
and it's like commemorative. What would be your take on that? Do you think it would do well or?
Yeah, I think they've done that before. I don't know if about postseason, but I do remember them doing some sort of commemorative like physical ticket. Maybe that would be an only member thing because like they know their seats and all that. But yeah, I think they would definitely do that. And they were, I mean, we're talking way down the road here, but if it was World Series, yeah, they'd be doing a bunch of special stuff. No doubt about that.
Okay, and then one, I would say, last question is obviously we know that Musgrove is hurt. Who do you think would be your number one pitcher pick out of all of them, to face Shohei Ohtani? If as with currently Ohtani's not pitching right now, he's just designated hitter. But who do you think would be your pitcher to throw against him?
Well, for like starting pitchers, I mean, I like the Michael King matchup. I'm really fine with anyone, but the relievers, it's Tanner Scott for me. I mean, that 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 one at bat last week, was that last week? Whenever it was at Dodger Stadium, that Shohei looked ridiculous. Tanner Scott, I think, is the obvious option. I mean, it was kind of like the Matt Olson thing tonight, where it felt like the Padres were pretty much, and this has been, and I like the approach. If we're going to lose the game, okay, we'll lose it in the ninth inning, but let's get there. Let's have the lead come the ninth inning, and let's worry about Matt Olson if he comes up again. We can worry about that later, and hopefully he gets out, even if it's a righty on the mound. We're going to have Tanner Scott come in the sixth inning and go get Matt Olson out. I think there was a runner in scoring position in that situation. We're just going to worry about that. Let's get those outs. Let's have this lead. Let's, get this lead deeper and deeper and deeper. And if we lose it, we lose it. But we got to get those outs right now. And I expect that to be the approach against the Dodgers. And I feel like when those outs keep ticking off the scoreboard, that other team, and in this case the Dodgers, hopefully they may get tighter and tighter. And I mean, we saw the big guys. We'll see what Shohei does, but Mookie, Freddie came up incredibly small in the postseason the last couple of years. And the Dodgers have not won a playoff game since 2022. So there's a lot of pressure. I'm already seeing some Dodger fans saying the pressure's on the Padres because we don't have a bunch of the injuries that the Dodgers do, and we have the momentum, whatever. But come on. The Dodgers, you have Shohei Ohtani, you have Mookie Betts, you have Freddie Freeman. You won the division. You got the bye. You're going to be playing at home. You still have a lot of talent on that roster. I know that they've been banged up with a bunch of injuries, but it's even like almost regardless of the situation, it's World Series or bust for the Dodgers. And if the Dodgers lose to the Padres in this division series, which obviously we all hope happens, I don't know if Dave Roberts survives this when you've got some appealing managerial candidates that are out there. This isn't a situation where you could just use injuries as an excuse because injuries happen all the time. So they've got to find a way. And obviously we hope that they don't. But yeah, it's going to be one heck of an entertaining series.
Yeah, so two final things. One is I think that the Padres would probably consider hiring Dave Roberts if he ends up getting fired, because with the record he has at the record he's had at the Dodgers, I feel like they might hire him back in some sort of role, because he was with the Padres, and I feel like maybe they've learned like, oh, we should have hired him in the first place. We went through all those managers. Like he actually, I believe it was when Bud Black left, he was like actually applied for it, and the Padres gave it to someone else. And I feel like they would consider hiring him back in some sort of role. And then the last thing is for if you're going to Dodger Stadium, I could probably tell you is I'm in Orange County for the year. I still watch the Padres. That one, they don't broadcast the games here. You got to do MLB TV. And then the second thing is use SeatGeek, because it probably, like with as in 2022, same with the Padres, they probably have a geolocator fence on. So I just want to, I always use SeatGeek for, any other MLB stadiums I've been to. So I just want to say that I would check there, because probably you go to the website, there's probably some sort of geolocator fence on there, trying like the Padres, how it was. I think yesterday I only saw like two Braves fans in the whole stadium, because they must
Mhm.
have Padres season tickets. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to go to the game, it's pretty much look on SeatGeek. And then also, if you're going to wear Padres stuff, make sure maybe just wear a Padres sign, not like a jersey, because I have heard that Dodger fans can sometimes be a little rowdy against Padres fans.
No way. Yeah, I would never believe that.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. All right. Thank you, Vince. I appreciate
yeah.
it, man.
As I heard, I think it was a few years ago, it was a opposing fan. They were found unconscious in the Dodger Stadium parking lot. So be careful when you go to Dodger Stadium, is what I've heard.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Vince. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. See ya. Uh, yeah. I like my life. I'm good. No need to risk that. I'm fine. There was a Dodger shirt tonight at Petco. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a Dodger shirt in the upper deck, and then the guy took it off, and he was actually a Padre fan, and that got the crowd going a little bit. That was a little weird. I don't think I've seen that before, but okay. When the Padres clinched against the Braves tonight, it was pretty much immediately to beat LA. And obviously, Dodger fans, they're probably going to have a field day with that and rent free and all that. It's like, again, they don't understand what rent free means. Rent free is, when we're thinking about you, when there's nothing going on between us two, we're literally next. We're facing the Dodgers next. So that's not rent free. By the way, talking about rent free, Josh Hader with those rent free quotes that he had against the Padres. Oh my goodness. That was hilarious watching him choke today. Just comes in the 8th inning, bases loaded, gives up the bases clearing knock down the line, and boom, Astros season is over. That's cool. That's cool watching the Tigers. They're definitely an easy team to root for because of how young they are, and the payroll isn't big. Isn't Josh Hader? I saw something. Hader's making more money this year than the Tigers 2024 postseason payroll. Like, that's ridiculous. But hopefully the Astros are enjoying Josh Hader while we have the best bullpen in the league. All right, some of the great partners of the show, Gaglione Bros, Famous Cheesesteaks, and Garlic Fries. Hopefully some of y'all at Petco Park had that tonight or yesterday, or are going to have that when the Dodgers come to town in the division series. Garlic fries, cheesesteak fries, regular fry. They've got a lot of stuff there, so check them out. Main location is on Friars Road. Breaking Tea, they just released, actually great timing because Higgy with the homer yesterday, homer today, a Higgy Bank shirt. Click the link in the description. Go to the Padres page. It may be labeled Slam Diego. Go to that page, and you will find the Higgy Bank shirt. And then there's obviously a bunch of other Padres shirts there, so check them out there. Underdog, you will get a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. Click that link in the description. Code Talking Friars. October is the best time of the year. I mean, all the action that we have right now, obviously MLB postseason, there's pick'ems every day when games are there. Musgrove, I feel like, was going to hit. My Manny 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs over that hit. Musgrove, it was going to hit, and then he gets hurt. So that sucked. Not for me. Like, I care more about Musgrove's health than that. I was just saying those were my selections today. But there's MLB. There's the WNBA playoffs. And those couple of series have been interesting with New York and Vegas and Connecticut and Minnesota. Obviously, NFL, college football, NWSL. There is a lot going on. NBA season is going to start back, I believe, later this month. So this is the best time of year. I don't care what anyone says. This is the best month of the sports calendar. You cannot prove to me otherwise. I love opening day, love All-Star game and all that, but this is, especially obviously when the Padres are in it, there's nothing better. So check out Underdog, and then SeatGeek, code Talking Friars, $20 off your first order there. Let's go to the chat before my laptop dies here. Try to get to as many people here as possible. Carter says, let's go beat LA. Jackson says, man, I really hope this isn't the last of Joe at his best that we see. I'm scared it's going to be Tommy John. I'm not even thinking about Tommy John right now, to be honest with Joe. I know these are just a couple of sentences that I've read about how he's determined to get back, as soon as he can. I feel like, now I haven't watched the video, it's just quotes, but I feel like Joe would be way more disappointed if he knew, like, man, I'm done. Wouldn't he have walked off the mound immediately if he knew something was that bad? I don't know. For me, I'm just trying to be optimistic right now. I'm not thinking about Tommy John because that's scary for sure. I'm not thinking about that. Ben, how did the game go? I was going to join the show, but my voice is completely gone from last night and tonight. That's probably a lot of you guys. Yeah. For me at Petco, sometimes I do lose my voice a little bit, but I try to save it, and I do my noise making with clapping, and I do a lot of fist pumps and getting pumped up that way. I try to be conscious of it and save it for the show for you guys. So hopefully I'm sounding okay. Jackson says Kyle Higashioka deserves a statue. If the Padres win a World Series and he delivers like the huge hit on top of what he's already done here, might get it. Might get it. He has already, I mean, there were Higgy chants. You know those Manny chants for any, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been to Petco and there's been the Manny chants, which were happening when he had the bases. He had a couple of bases loaded opportunities there early in this game. Max Fried, you were not going to get Manny both times. You struck him out the first time. You were not going to get him the second time. No way. So there were the Manny chants, but there were Higgy chants. Like, that's awesome. I don't know if Yankee Stadium did that ever for Higgy, but I know they loved him. That was amazing. I mean, it feels like Higgy loves being here. I know he's a Southern California guy. I'm sure loves being here. What's the guy's name from what was it? Blink 182. I'm not a big music person. Tom DeLonge, I think. He threw the first pitch out yesterday. By the way, Tony Hawk threw out the first pitch tonight. That was pretty cool. Hopefully if Shiel Seidler throws out the first pitch for Padres Dodgers, oh man, the upper deck is going to be shaking before first pitch. I'll tell you that right now. But Tom DeLonge, he gifted Higgy the guitar that they used in the All the Small Things music video. I believe that's what was that was posted by the Padres today. And it seemed like Higgy was super stoked about that. So, yeah, he's become a fan favorite pretty easily. And I mean, obviously you're going to become a fan favorite when you're producing like this. But I think what makes him super likable as well is he isn't like this super fired up person externally. He's just, I'm going about my business. I'm a catcher, just doing my job. He has that dry humor as well. He does have a personality. So he's very likable, very likable. LFGSD beat LA. Padres own Yamamoto. Rex says, hope the thing with Joe is just precautionary, but it's a good thing we have healthy pitchers. Even if they need a bullpen game, we have the arms. Yeah, like that's the good thing, right? Where even if they needed to have a bullpen game, let's say Martin Perez starts it, right? Or he's part of it. They can go Perez, they could go Brian Hoeing, they could go Yuki Matsui. The offense might have to show up a little bit, but they could do that. I'm trying to pull up here my bullpen chart, how, the best way that they would go about this. So let's say it's Martin Perez to start, then you go with Brian Hoeing, then you can go, let's say that covers 5 innings, right? 5 innings. Then right there, from there, you could go Morahone, you could go Estrada, Adam, and Scott. And then you're not even using Suarez. You could use Suarez and not use Morahone or not use Estrada. That's not even using Matsui or using Wandy Peralta. So, yes, they definitely have the ability to do that. And by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these Dodger games is an extra inning game. The Padres would have the advantage in that. No doubt about that in my mind. They would have the advantage because they have that bullpen depth. I'm not watching every Dodger game, so those Dodger fans would know better than me on what their bullpen looks like, but I'm putting this Padres bullpen up against anyone. And in extra inning games, yeah. I mean, we saw it during the regular season. The Padres have the advantage. They have the lineup. They have the guys to do it. So I'm feeling good. I was saying on John and Jim yesterday before game 1, I was more worried, or maybe I said it before I went on air. I forget. But I was telling them I was more worried about this Brave series than I was about a potential Dodgers series, because with the Dodgers, they're not in a great spot pitching wise. They've got injuries. The Padres have beaten the Dodgers. They have shown in the postseason and in the regular season this year that they can beat the Dodgers. And I like the Padres pitching situation. I'll put their lineup right up against the Dodgers lineup. Like, I can do that. I will take Mike Schultz managing over Dave Roberts. the Dodger Stadium crowd doesn't faze the Padres. And I think the Padres crowd only will help the Padres at Petco. So, yeah. Now, with Musgrove going down, that does change things. I'm not going to sit here and be like, no, I have the same confidence level if Joe doesn't pitch, because Joe's a big difference. But everyone else is still intact. And again, the start of that series, instead of losing the first 2 games on paper, they have a shot at winning both of those games on paper. When you've got Dylan C starting, and then you've got Yu Darvish starting potentially, probably in game 2. And then you could go to Michael King in game 3. I mean, they have a shot to win all 3 of those first 3 games. So that's awesome. How much are the tickets at home? I saw some being listed for over $100, and it's the Dodgers, so I assume that's what it's going to be. And I assume that they increase by round. I'm not going to get into my family's prices, but just what I've seen online from other fans, from what I've seen posted, yeah, it seems like the prices rise each round, and the Dodger prices are obviously going to be inflated for sure, I would assume. Yep, this is a good point. Tatis loves hitting at Dodger Stadium. A nice nuke at Dodger Stadium would be great in the first inning there in game 1. Just like shut up the crowd right away. Well, someone says Matty Nux to save the day. I guess that would be an option, but no, I don't think he makes the roster. Let's see here. I just hate Dodgers. Yeah, I do hate the Dodgers. Yeah. Not afraid to admit that. Yeah, I do. I don't care if it's the play-by-play guy or the analyst. No, of course I do. Thoughts on Jake? Yeah, struggling. Yeah. Struck out sometimes tonight, right? I was hoping he was going to come through, but the Dodgers, there's just a switch that flips. It flips on. At Dodger Stadium, right, where they clinched that playoff spot in the postseason against the Dodgers. Remember, he had that homer, I think it was in game 2, that big insurance homer late. I think it was the 8th inning or top of the 9th that he hit that homer to allow the series to be tied 1-1 heading back to San Diego. Then they win those games in San Diego, and they win the series. He comes up. He had the walk-off, I think, right? I think that was a couple years ago against the Dodgers at Petco on one of the City Connect nights. This guy shows up for the Dodgers. So I am not going to sit here and bail on Jake Cronenworth because he didn't get, or maybe he did get one. He got one hit yesterday, right? But he went 0 for tonight. I'm not going to sit here and bail on him just because, actually, he hasn't gotten a hit. No hits. He has a 143 on base. He scored 1 run, I think, yesterday. I'm not just going to bail on him for 2. Again, let's remember, guys, this is 2 games. And he was facing Max Fried a little bit tonight. Again, like that switch flips against the Dodgers. Out of the 2, Bogey and Crony, if I had to pick one to be more worried about, I'd probably pick Bogey offensively. Although he did hit that ball hard to left tonight, and it just didn't drop. You can't do anything about that. That's what I've got on Jake. Let's see here. Continuing to go through the chat. Miles says compete for Pete. That's for sure. No, I'm not losing faith in Cronenworth. No. Vince says the cheapest ticket is last row at $90 on SeatGeek for anyone that wants to go. Someone says, I think Skip Schumacher is going to get hired by the Braves to get rid of Snitker. I don't know about that. I see the Dodgers, like that's a big connection. I think it's a fit for the Dodgers if like they get bounced. But would Skip Schumacher want to go manage the Dodgers? Because he does love the Padres. He loves Ben and Woods. He was at Petco, I think, last night. I thought I saw a picture online of him at Petco. So would he want to take the Dodgers job? That is an appealing job, though. I think his family's still in Orange County. Could be wrong on that, but that's just a guess. That would be appealing. And if you're offered millions of dollars to manage the Dodgers, you might take it. But Skip is not. He's a man. That would suck to see Skip manage the Dodgers. Like, it would be great if the Padres bounced the Dodgers, but if that results in Skip Schumacher being the Dodgers manager, I'm not saying I wouldn't take it. Like, Skip's not out there on the field, but that would suck. Because Skip's one of the best. I think Skip is one of the best managers in the game. And I think he was just in a bad situation with the Marlins. That's just what it was. So hopefully he finds a better situation that is not the Dodgers. Hopefully it's like, what are some openings? I think Cincinnati, Chicago. I wouldn't want to throw him into Chicago with the White Sox. No. There might be some other openings that happen. So we'll see. But I think the Braves would stick with Snitker. This isn't on Snitker. There was a bunch of injuries. I mean, what team is going to survive that? Like, really? I don't know if any team in the league survives the injuries that they had to guys. It wasn't just one or two. It was a lot. So the Padres, they should have won this series. And so congratulations. They took advantage. We're on to the next round. And now the real fun, the real business starts. They are 2 wins down. They've got 11 more to go. They've got 3 in this division series. They've got 4. And then they've got 4 more. What happened to Joe? Is Musgrove okay? It doesn't seem like he's okay. Maybe he comes back in the division series out of the bullpen, or he pitches out of the bullpen if they can get to the championship series, or he makes a start in the championship series. But right now, and this is definitely speculation, this is just totally guessing because I didn't see the video of him talking to the media. I just saw a couple of quotes. He hasn't had his MRI yet. That's tomorrow. But I'm not expecting him. I'm not thinking that he's going to start in this division series. When he comes off with elbow tightness in a potential, and it ended up being a serious clinching win at Petco Park, in his city, he's not going to just walk off the field if he thinks he can get through it, So, yeah, it doesn't seem like he's okay. Hopefully he ends up being okay. We'll see. All right, that's going to do it. Padres, they knock off the Braves. They take care of business. They needed to do it. And it was best case scenario in terms of amount of games played. They win it in 2. It sets them up well for the start of this Dodgers series, for the first, 3 games of this Dodgers series. And this is the matchup, like Manny said postgame, this is the matchup we all have been waiting for. Padres, Dodgers. I kind of wish it was in the NLCS to go to the World Series, but sort of like in the WNBA, I wish it was Aces and Liberty in the WNBA finals. But I'm going to take this matchup. It's going to be a fun freaking matchup to watch. Cannot wait. I'll probably have some more videos out before this Padres-Dodgers series gets underway, because that's not until Saturday night. Man, that's going to be a long time waiting for that. But we got a Game 3 at least tomorrow in Major League Baseball with the Mets and the Brewers. The winner ends up facing the Phillies, so that'll be fun. And, yeah, have a great rest of your night, or a great rest of your day if you're watching this tomorrow or listening to this tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in on YouTube, on the podcast platforms. And let's go Pods. Let's do it.